And welcome to another edition of the Sartorial Geek Podcast by Webster Style, where we talk about bow ties, comic books, and everything in between. I'm your host, Webster Style, the man, the voice, the fragrance. That's right. Coming back one more time, and let's jump into the download. Now, this week's download is the sequel to originally an Xbox exclusive game, which has been remastered and republished about a year or so ago for all other systems. But this game is so beloved and so unique. I am glad they came out with a sequel. Remedy has blessed us with a sequel to Alan Wake. That's right, kiddies. It's Alan Wake 2 dropping on current gen hardware, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series systems, and PC. Alan Wake 2 is a survival horror game developed by Remedy Entertainment and published by Epic Games Publishing. A sequel to Alan Wake, the story follows best-selling thriller novelist Alan Wake, who has been trapped in an alternate dimension for 13 years as he attempts to escape by writing a horror story involving an FBI agent named Saga Anderson. Saga Anderson. This game off the top looks really amazing. And at the time of this recording, it is already out and it has gotten great reviews. I think at the current time, it's sitting at about a 90-ish or like 90, 91 on Metacritic. And just watching gameplay videos and seeing people reviews, this is definitely a game that if you're into horror games, it is one that you should definitely get into. Remedy, in their correspondence about the game over the past couple of years, have very much said they wanted to make a horror game because that was sort of their intention with the first one. And the first one was really good. It dropped on the 360 originally, but with the increase, or I guess less limits of the technology nowadays, Alan Wake 2 is very much their vision of what they want Alan Wake to be. So go ahead, check that out. Alan Wake 2, PC on the Epic Games Store, obviously if it's published by Epic Games, Xbox Series systems, as well as PS5. Now, the interview this week is with the bodacious, the nerdy Bea York. Bea York is a content creator who I had such an amazing time talking with. Anytime I get to talk with anybody about Star Trek, I am a happy camper. So it was really interesting to talk to her about that, talking to her about how she got into adult content creating, as well as her love for kittens and her kitten fostering program, as well as her misadventures in Twitch streaming, finding games, doing Lego. It was just such a fun experience talking to her, and I hope you have as much fun as I did during the interview process. So sit back, relax, and listen to my interview with Bea York, the award-winning content creator, Bea York. Bea, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm very good. Now, in my research, I've learned a lot of things about you, watched a lot of content, and one of the things that I've noticed and taken away from your content is that there is this warm honesty about your content that comes from just your personality, your voice, which I'll get into as well, but also in just your sets, and they're so warm and inviting. And even looking at some of your YouTube stuff, it really draws the audience in many respects. And I would say I'm not like this humongous, I'm not that knowledgeable of everything in the adult industry now because it's so saturated. However, I would say it's probably very different than a lot of what people think about content creation in general. And I will say I've seen other content creators, they go to YouTube or they do things on YouTube, and how could I put it? It doesn't come off as earnest. I mean, I'm not saying they aren't being earnest, but there's a genuineness, authenticity about you that I would say that really stands out about that. Is that something you hear often?
Yeah. I mean, not in necessarily those words, but it is definitely something that I strive to, and I think I have been able to tap into, is that I want to be warm and inviting and welcoming and make sure that everyone feels welcome and like they're a guest in my home, essentially, whenever they're consuming my content. And they always feel good and validated with whatever type of content they're consuming.
Right. Okay. I'm glad that you hear that, or at least some sort of similar aspect of that, because it's very true. Just I was watching earlier the video you did where you read mean tweets, where you took them from Reddit and the different hubs and everything, and even just the presentation of that, you were still, even though some of the comments weren't so kind, you were still very respectful to people's thoughts and their words, even if they, again, were not so kind to you in what they were saying. And I really respected that, not just as a content creator, as a person as well. And to me, it really spoke a lot to your personality, at least what I perceive your personality to be. I'll put it that way.
Yay, that means I'm doing a good job. I mean, a lot of that is building up the skin, the thicker skin and a backbone to be able to handle criticism like that. But I mean, as I've grown as an individual and as a creator, I've learned that, not everyone is going to resonate with who you are. And that's the beauty of being an independent creator, and there being a vast number of other creators out there who fulfill all sorts of niches. I mean, my problem is, of course, anyone taking the time out of their day to say mean things about someone else. But like I had said in that YouTube video, if them saying mean things to me means they're not saying mean things to somebody else, I'll take it, because I've had time to build the thicker skin. But yeah, like if it just makes someone's day that much better, I'll deal with it.
Understood. I love that point. I love that point of view. Now, speaking of your content, there's one thing that instantly grabs you, and I'm pretty sure you hear this, is your voice, is the calmness, the soothingness of your voice. And I said to myself, when I looked you up and saw YouTube videos, and I said, why doesn't she do ASMR? And then I see that you had a channel before, and I was like, that is something I feel like that would be perfect for your voice and what you do. But I really enjoy that. I was like, okay, you could really sit and listen to her talk about anything in many respects.
It's years and years of establishing the perfect retail voice.
Okay. Because I was going to ask, because this is a question I get asked, like, have you done radio, podcasting, anything like that? But retail makes sense.
Absolutely. But thank you. I mean, you know how everyone hears their voice differently than how there's no way to like listen to yourself and be like, yeah, that's totally what I sound like. So in my head, I have a very squeaky, annoying voice, and whenever I hear it, it's like, but like other people like it, and I just don't understand why. But sure, I'll go with it.
No, I totally get that. I've always heard that about my voice, and until I started doing the podcast, and then I'm listening back to myself sometimes, like doing a walk or something, I said, oh, I understand why people say the things they say now, because I'm hearing the bass and everything. Like, okay, I get it. I understand why I get asked these questions. I forgot to ask these questions since puberty. I understand.
You definitely have a voice for radio/podcasting.
Thank you. Now, one of the things, talk about broadcasting, you're into Twitch. How long have you been on Twitch broadcasting there?
According to the last time I got the little notification that someone had resubscribed, it's been 18 months now.
Okay, because I looked that up and I saw there were a couple of videos there, and this is my assessment, you seem to be trying to find your niche on Twitch.
Yes, I wanted to try gaming and stick to retro games that, like, brought back nostalgia. But I found out that I am absolutely terrible. So within the first month of streaming, I tried to do Super Mario World.
Okay.
And I was this close to like crying on stream. So I've dabbled in many other things. But the one I always seem to circle back to is building Lego sets.
Yes, I think the last one was up, you were building the Eiffel Tower, if I remember correctly.
Yep, I still am.
I was going to ask, how's that going?
I don't think you can see it in the... Oh, yeah, you can. You can see it in the background. It doesn't look like much, but I am finally on the very last third of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually have the whole mess down here below me. So I have like another 20 small bags to go. So hopefully just a few more streams.
Well, look, some progress is better than no progress. So you're making progress. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I got a couple random pieces done on my last stream. But mostly people were distracted by the kittens.
Understood.
Me too.
Let's talk about the kittens. Let's talk about you cat fostering. How'd that come to be?
Well, I mean, I always wanted to do something to be helpful since I obviously can't adopt all the cats in the world. And so aside from like donating money to my local shelter, I wanted to do something where I could put additional resources, thus being my time, into helping them out. And yeah, there was a litter of 4 that is very messy, needs help gaining weight so they can eventually get spayed and neutered and then adopted out. So, I don't do it every time because I need to give my resident cats a break and myself, especially with traveling. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Sorry, they're mewing in the background.
Oh, no problem. I can't hear them at all. But I thought that was very interesting, and it's something that pulls your heartstrings, and just to see that sort of heart that you have as well from your cat fostering. Now, I want to shift back somewhat to the adult industry. How did you get into the adult industry, especially being a solo content creator?
So I started out on Reddit. I think it's now 8 years ago,
okay,
give or take. But it really just started as I was an avid Redditor. I was also in the middle of cleaning out my closet and selling a lot of my old clothes, and I came across a giant bag of old worn panties, and I was like, well, these are all like designer, and it would be such a shame to like just toss them because they can't get donated, they can't really get sold on eBay or anything. Right. So I did a little research, just Reddit being the resource that it is, and I stumbled upon our used panties, and I was like, okay, I could give this a shot. I was terrible at it at first, but I made my first sale, and then I made another couple sales, and then people started asking me like, oh, can you also include a video or photos? And it started to like turn into like, oh, do you do this and this, or would you be willing to do this and this? And I was like, okay. So eventually that turned into, I guess being a clip artist, and I guess, just a content creator in general, until I had enough content to kind of share more of it with the broader internet, and see where that would take me.
Okay. It's a different story from many I've heard lately, but everybody's story is unique, and I love hearing about that. So you have about 8 years or so as far since your journey started. Where do you see Bea York going in the next 4 to 5 years?
Oh gosh, I'm not wholly sure. I mean, my biggest goal is that I want to be the best creator that I can possibly be. Mm-hmm. as far as like from a technical standpoint, everything I do is like done by me. And I'm also self-taught with a lot of the photography and videography, but I want to at least learn how to bring it to like the same level as like your top YouTube creators or your like studios, but still all done by me. So that's my goal, and hopefully I guess just build my empire, and then I would be pretty happy.
There's nothing wrong with that. I like that, just, you know, slow and steady, making yourself better, that forward progress. That's all we can ever really ask for, just to constantly get better and get better and grow, and to make what we do that much more better. Is that even right? What, that much better with every step of the way. That's awesome. Now, one of the things I want to ask, and as a curvy creator, and we have seen, societally speaking, at least United States, Western world, this shift in thinking, shifting in conversations about body type and what is beautiful, what isn't beautiful. Have you seen, particularly in a positive direction, have you seen like a shift in maybe just subscribers, or just, you know, consumption of your content, or even just recognition because of a lot of the changing attitudes and perspectives?
I'm very, very fortunate to see recognition in the industry. Like last year when I won the XBiz, well, it was named CAM Awards, now Creator Awards, for Female Clip Artist of the Year. I mean, I was one of, you know, like I was a curvier creator that's not like in the BBW category, but in like a category with, you know, all types of creators, and being one of the first, you know, kind of plus size, mid-size, somewhere in between, get that sort of recognition was definitely really, really cool. And I don't know if I can swear, but I'm going to say the B word. But it was nice to see like someone who doesn't look like they come from the industry, a basic bitch like me, win such a prestigious award. And I think it kind of gives representation to everyone who is starting out, and, you know, that you don't need to look like a porn star to be successful. You don't need to have, you know, a million things done to you to be successful, although you can, and that's totally a-okay. But, you know, you can be yourself and let that be the thing that resonates with your fans. And so that's been really nice. And sometimes I still get like imposter syndrome when people approach me and say that I wouldn't say look up to me, but, you know, like, you know, I'm someone that they admire for what I do as a curvy content creator. And I wouldn't say I'm a trailblazer, because there's lots of amazingly talented creators out there before me, paving the way. But it's nice to be like in a room full of greats.
Understood. That is something I've noticed, and particularly the past 2 years, maybe 3. And in my opinion, I think everything resulting from the pandemic changed a lot of thinking for the companies, personally speaking. One, because with everyone going direct to consumer, you saw an uptick in what people really like, not what the companies were pushing out.
Yes.
And 2, the companies had to respond to that. So you see, you know, thicker women, curvy women, not naturally. And again, people do what they want to do. Beauty is beauty. I'll say that.
Yeah.
However, but I'm really speaking of, like, you know, women body type like yourself, you know, black, white, whatever. You're seeing those women at, say, a Brazos or a Vivid, where you didn't see them 2, 3, 4 years ago, getting work with them, because you've seen a demand now, or I should say, the demand has always been there, but companies never gave it. And one of the things that I was talking to Come Out of Clutch yesterday, I think it was, and one of the things I said to her, and I feel the same way about you, just getting to talk to you and even seeing your content, you are a regular looking woman, and that's not a dismissal of your beauty, but you look like someone who is like, if I meet you and she's like, hey, I would try to introduce myself to you. Like, you don't look like that stereotypical cookie cutter sort of adult actress. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but now there's more and more diversity in what you see on screen and what someone can consume directly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here to represent all the basic bitches out there. And I'm okay with that.
Okay, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people who would say you're not basic. Okay. Now, let's get into some deep questions. Okay, so what got you into Star Trek?
So what got me into it, because I always thought it was like really, it was too nerdy. Like, oh, I've always been a Star Wars fan, but Star Trek, that's for the real nerds. But I was actually working on homework, and a boyfriend at the time, while I was like working on my homework, just had it on and he was watching, and so it was in the background, and I was like, okay, the storyline's okay. It was Star Trek Voyager. Okay. So while that series gets a lot of hate, it'll always have a very special place in my heart, because it was my first.
Right.
But I was like, okay, this is a pretty, like, there's character development-ish. It's got a pretty cool storyline, and the universe is huge. So, I love to, like, consume all of it. And so I just went down that rabbit hole.
And what a wonderful rabbit hole it is. I am a certified Trekkie. I always tell people, look, my mama did it to me watching the original Trek, so I grew up on Next Gen, and I've just watched everything. I haven't watched Enterprise. It's on my list to do, but and
Enterprise is so good.
I don't doubt it, but this is the thing. When Enterprise came out, well, I think I'm 44, so I literally grew up with all of that from elementary school up until college. And Enterprise came out at a time where, though Star Trek wasn't as accessible, based on where I went to school with undergrad and then grad school, so I didn't see it, and then I was very adamant against prequels, because I always said, you know how it ends, why am I watching this? But now, after we gotten some good prequels like Strange New Worlds, which is absolutely
so good, I'm so glad it's coming back this month.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this anytime in the month of June, all of season 1 is for free on YouTube of Strange New Worlds. So if you have, watch it anyway. But that's my PSA for today. Thank you later. But yeah, Star Trek is just, I found with Star Trek, and even more so with Star Wars, I love Star Wars as well, but I'm not a Star Wars nerd. I'm a Trek nerd, I've always has been. Star Trek just has a way of bonding people together, like no other fandom really does, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty unique. I mean, Star Wars nerds will always be Star Wars nerds, and I will always consider myself amongst them. But I feel like there's something more, like, there's a little bit more hope in the hearts of Star Trek fans, because I think it's like that initial exploration that kind of, like, I don't know, gets into people, and it just resonates just a little bit throughout the fandom and through fans.
I agree. I was talking with Navia. She does a Star Trek podcast that interviews up on my website, and I found her on TikTok, and I was just so excited. I'm like, oh, we could just sit here and talk Star Trek for like an hour. Like, oh my god, I love this. Like, it's so cool, and then just bonding. And I'm playing through Star Trek Resurgence, a new game that came out. I was like, I've been waiting for that for a year. It's amazing. So I am like, oh, Star Trek, another Trekkie. But so what's your favorite series? Like, where you have a special place in your heart was like, what's your favorite series?
Ooh, I always hate this one, and I think that's why I usually just go to Voyager, just because it was my first. But I think each series has something special that it brings.
Mhm.
So I don't think there's truly a favorite. I know the hardest one to watch is Discovery, which I still haven't caught up.
Same, same. And I am. It was so drastic considering the time period it's set in, but I am more apt to watching since they had to jump to the future. So I'm like,
Yes, because I was just like they did a lot of like making things look so futuristic that it didn't line up with
right,
like the original series, and then the world's always ending, but we know the world doesn't end
right.
because it's in the past, and there's a lot of spoilers in that.
That's my problem with prequels.
I really, really like all of the characters individually,
Right.
like so much. But yeah, that one, it's hard to watch.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I appreciate what they tried to do, especially for the first new Trek series since Enterprise went off there. So it was like at 15. I don't know. It was long. It was
a
almost 3 decades.
good chunk of time.
Yeah. So I don't envy the task that they had, but I appreciate what they tried to do. But it was a lot of iteration in them as a whole, getting Star Trek right, from writing Discovery and then figuring out what to do with Picard and finally getting it right in season 3. And then we got Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks. So, they're getting it. I can't complain. They're getting it. It's Trek fans are eating good right now.
Yeah.
We
Like
need a new
the last season of Picard, they finally like just gave in with the fan service. Just go all in, and while it wasn't perfect, it was still really good.
It was really good, yes.
And Strange New Worlds really does a great job of sticking to like the original like ideology of being, old Trek.
Right. Yeah, and even we talk about Voyager, Discovery, how it looked so futuristic. Strange New Worlds look like if they did the original series now. Like, I'm fine with the updates because it looks like, okay, if Star Trek was made today for the first time, what would it look like? Strange New Worlds. That's exactly, I'm like, this is beautiful. This is like, even the characters, the interactions, this, and I feel like this would fit before Kirk.
Yeah.
It fits. Everything fits. Discovery it didn't fit. And I'm glad they had the time jump.
Yeah, they should have just stayed in the future. Just never have been a part of that timeline. We don't need Spock's stepsister.
Right.
Makes no sense to me.
Right. It still doesn't. But like I said, they did drop the characters. They trying to do something different, and I appreciate that. They have some things that hit, some things miss. But I think that with what I've seen of them jumping into the future, the series has finally hit its own stride, since it's not really tied down by anything else of the continuity. It could do stuff on its own, which is probably what they should have done in the first place.
Yeah.
So Star Wars, let's talk about that really quick before I let you go to go back to your kids. Okay, so what was the first Star Wars movie you saw in the theater?
The first movie I saw in the theater was probably when they remastered one of the original 3, I think. But I was a kid, so it was probably the prequels when I was also a kid.
I'm thinking that was about 97, 98 when they remastered, because I remember I'm dating myself, like I said. That was like freshman, sophomore year of college. I just remember my friends and I were like hyped to go. And then I remember Phantom Menace I saw the Phantom Menace 4 times in the theater in 1999. Like I went, like I was just so excited to have new Star Wars. Now looking back at it now, and like I really saw this 4 times in the theater, but it was new Star Wars. It was amazing. It was I had seen Return of the Jedi when it released back in '83. Like I remember that as a child, but I'd seen all the rest of them only on VHS. So to have a new Star Wars in a movie theater, it's like, oh, this is amazing.
To get that full experience.
Yes, yes, and I think that is something that I'm regardless of how people feel about I guess the what do they call them, the newer movies, the new 3 movies.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, I think there is an actual name, but I can't think of it.
Yeah, I can never remember that. But I love the fact Star Wars is one of those series that you really need to experience in the theater. It's just even when it's bad, it's just fun to watch. It's really just fun to watch. I think, like for me, I haven't watched The Rise of Skywalker yet. For some reason I'm avoiding it because I didn't go see it in the theater. And I know I won't even really appreciate it as much watching it on Disney Plus. Like I didn't see The Force Awakens in the theater. I saw it on TV and I guess DVD at the time. Like I have my opinions on that movie. I understand what it tried to do. I'll put it that way.
I mean, I won't go into details about how I feel about the last 3 since you haven't seen them all, but they are very disjointed and
yes. Okay, thank you. I thought that Force Awakens was paint by numbers Star Wars. That's exactly what I felt. It's like this is literally paint by numbers. Like really, J.J. Abrams, you did that. And honestly, I think not one of the few people, but I enjoyed The Last Jedi. I had no issues with what Luke did and how he did it. I was like, it fits to me. It makes sense to me. But still, as a movie, it was disjointed. Like the whole threequel, whatever they call it.
Yeah, you could tell it was very different, like very different directions. And
yeah.
I mean, I think the last one does finally pay some fan service. And I would probably say it's maybe my favorite out of those 3.
Mm-hmm. Understood. I'll watch it one day. I'll probably do a marathon, especially with all this. Look, Star Wars fans are eating good too with them. We had Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian 3 seasons, Obi-Wan, which I still have to finish. I really enjoyed Obi-Wan. I don't sit and watch too much TV anymore, except Star Trek. That's the only thing I make the point to get up for. Star Trek and most of the Marvel shows, that's really it. Because I end up talking about them on my podcast. So I make it a point to watch those because I always talk about it. But everything else is like, I don't really have time, but I'll get back to Obi-Wan eventually. I'm not going to take up any more of your time because we can sit here and talk about Star Trek and Star Wars all night. Tell everybody where they can find you.
The easiest thing to do is Google me, which is Bea York, Beayork. Otherwise, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, lots of things, and that's going to be at Bea York. There's a little U because I started out on Reddit, and of course, Bea York was always taken. But yeah, Google's always good.
And that was my interview with Bea York. She's a nerdy girl, and I absolutely love it. I had such a blast talking with her. Now, last week, if you caught it, I talked about 3 must-have tobacco fragrances for the season. And one of those that I highlighted was one of my favorites, the boozy, sweet, sensual Zaharoff Signature Tabac. Well, they have come back and add a little extra to it to make it a bit more seductive. And we're talking about Zaharoff Signature Leather Tabac. Now, you can find this in an EDP concentration as 60 mLs for $155 and 120 mLs for $195. So basically, That is 2 ounces and 4 ounces if you're going by the English system. With this one, you have top notes of rosemary, sage, black pepper, star anise, and plum. Heart notes of birch tar, cumin seeds, rose otto, myrrh, and tobacco. And then base accords or base notes of leather accords, suede accords, honey, oud, praline, and frankincense. So you get a bit more of a sexiness to it. Not as much as the tobacco compared to the Tabac. All the booziness is gone, so you get spicy sweetness at the top. Tobacco and the rose and the cumin seeds and the myrrh in the middle, so you get that spiciness in the tobacco, and then you get a double dose of leather with honey and oud with the praline and frankincense. So you got a sweet, spicy, leathery, tobacco-y fragrance all around. It is one that I'm sure is going to be really decadent, especially for the season, and one that's going to be really, really sexy. So that's out now on Zaharoff.com. And with that, you know what's going on, ways to support us outside of just listening every, which I am very appreciative of. You can support by going to Basil and Sage, checking out the subscription boxes there, and you get 10% off your first purchase using the code Sartorio and Geek 10 at checkout. Also, become a patron to our Patreon at the $1, $3, and $5 producer tiers. You get all the shows here, plus bonus content depending on the tier, as well as check us out over at Pete and Pedro. Use the link below to get 10% off of your first purchase. And I've talked about last week, Villain is an absolute banger fragrance for the season. And then if you're tired of the syrupy, sugary, carbonated energy drinks, try W Energy Drink. Get 10% off your first purchase with the code WebsterMan or using the link below in the show notes. Now, of course, you can find me everywhere, literally everywhere. I feel like I'm always on the internet nowadays. But you can find me at least twice a week over at Nerds with the World, talking with my man, Brian Saff, about the latest and greatest in video games. And with this time of year, it is an onslaught of video game releases every single week. So catch me with him over the NRW Checkpoint. And then, of course, we're talking with Sean Mongo, the voiceover king, and the legend Kuya P about wrestling, the square circle. There's so much to talk about wrestling. We never have enough time to talk about everything that is burning on our tongues to talk about over at Kayfabe Baby, the NRW Ring Generals podcast. Of course, I'm on social media. You can find me on Instagram at Webster Style and Sartorio and Geek, Twitter Webster Style, and TikTok _Webster Style. And you'll see all of these things congregated over at websterstyle.com. Drop me an email, info@websterstylemagazine.com. And again, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your listening here. And remember, stay safe out there and be blessed.
Tree Green Tuesday, had to be Bow Tie Thursday, had to be White Wednesday. I know last time. Well, I wore polka dot. You didn't. Miss Millie on them hills killing them, but I'm sure it's a Thursday. Bow Tie Thursday, pasta cream in your heels looking sharp, babe. Acting like you don't know the rules up in the workplace. Must I remind you it was till on your birthday? Don't get me wrong, I think we killed in the birthdays. And you picked a hella fit for the church day. Let's say you picked the wrist game poet. Now you got the floor filled with bras that you purchase. Pick a color scheme that can match the berry corset. Get the berry cream, get the berry cream, get the berry cream. We're gonna make a little scene, cause no one man should have all that styling. Take it off, clothes on the floor piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it off and let me see what's under them seams. Cause no one man should have all that styling. Take it off, clothes on the floor piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it off and let me see what's under them seams. Let's see what it seems. If it is what it seems. Do it again. Chicks be looking thick leggings, you know what I mean? I don't know. Take a hint though, don't try to get me at a moment. Cold mint though, smoking hot, rocking this pin so thin. Tie hairline, looking like a stint. So pimp, no lie, I'm sharper than a utensil. Instrumental, plain dang, homie. I was hoping we could walk out with that bang bang, honey. See them plain James, honey, them lame frames, funny. We tailor fitted crazy like that thing came on me. Hey, mommy, liquor lady, main thing, want me on the scene. Fit popping like a main vein, running blood color lips, smashing with the hand. Clutch money, holding bag, kinda funny. Can you tell me what's the price tag of the Range Rover? Hang on me when we walking, looking Gucci like that thing sprayed on me. Walking with a limp like an ankle sprained on me. Yeah, I rock the cardigan. She don't really want me because one man should have all that styling. Take it out, clothes on the floor, piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it up and let me see what's under them seams. Cause no one man should have all that styling. Take it out, clothes on the floor, piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it up and let me see what's under them seams. Hey, let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Aim up and on the middle of my lawn. Aim up and on the middle of my lawn. Cause no one man should have all that styling. Take it off, clothes on the floor piling. No one girl should fit it all in them jeans. So take it off and let me see what's under them seams. Oh, you wanted to? Oh, I completely read that wrong.